I'm 63 years old, and until 18 months ago, I believed I had done everything right. I'd been a good wife to Michael for 41 years, a devoted mother to our daughter, Jessica, a dedicated elementary school teacher for 37 years. When Michael passed away from pancreatic cancer 2 years ago, he left me with a paid-off house in Cedar Springs, Tennessee, a modest pension, and the proceeds from selling his family's hardware store, $850,000, that was supposed to see me through retirement. I thought I'd built a life that was safe, comfortable, predictable. I was wrong about everything. The morning it all started to unravel, I was in my garden, pruning the rose bushes Michael had planted the year before he got sick. It was early September, and the Tennessee heat was just beginning to ease. My phone rang, Jessica's name flashing on the screen. "Mom, do you have a minute?" Her voice had that bright, excited edge that I'd learned to recognize over the years. It usually meant she wanted something. "Of course, sweetheart. What's going on?" "Brandon and I have been talking, and we have the most incredible opportunity. You know how I've always dreamed of opening my own restaurant?" I did know. Jessica had mentioned it countless times over the years, though she'd never actually worked in food service. She'd been a real estate agent, a personal trainer, a life coach, and most recently, an influencer trying to build a following on social media. Each venture started with the same enthusiasm and ended the same way, quietly fading until we never mentioned it again. "There's this perfect location in downtown Nashville," she continued, "right on Broadway. The lease is available, and Brandon found an investor who'll match whatever we put in, but we need to move fast. Like, really fast." I felt something tighten in my chest. A small warning bell I didn't want to hear. "That sounds exciting, honey, but have you worked out a business plan? Looked at the numbers?" "Mom, Brandon has an MBA. He's handled all of that. This isn't like before, this is real, professional." There was an edge in her voice now. Defensive. "We just need capital." And I was thinking, with Dad's money just sitting in your savings account. The garden suddenly felt very quiet. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. "What exactly are you asking, Jessica?" "I'm asking you to invest in your daughter's future. In our family's future. The investor will match dollar for dollar up to $200,000. If you put in $200, we'd have $400,000 to start with. Think about it. Mom, you'd be part owner of a restaurant on Broadway. You could finally have something that's yours, something Dad would have been proud of." That last line hit exactly where she meant it to. Michael had always supported Jessica's dreams, sometimes more than I thought wise. He would have wanted me to help her. Wouldn't he? "I need to think about this, sweetheart. $200,000 is..." "Mom, the lease won't wait. We need an answer by Friday. I'm not asking you to give us the money, this is an investment. A real one. You'll get it back, plus profit. I promise." I heard my daughter say, "I promise," and I wanted so badly to believe her. That's how it started. With a promise. I should have listened to the doubt in my gut. I should have called a lawyer. I should have at least talked to someone outside the family. But Jessica was my only child, and Michael had just died, and I was so tired of being alone in that big house with nothing but memories. I said yes. By Friday, I'd transferred $200,000 to an account Jessica set up for Bella Vista Restaurant LLC. She and Brandon came over that weekend with champagne and architectural drawings of what the restaurant would look like. They had names for signature dishes, color schemes, a marketing plan. It all looked so professional, so real. "You won't regret this, Mom," Jessica said, hugging me. "This is going to change everything for our family." She was right about that, at least. For the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. Jessica sent regular updates, photos of the space being renovated, invoices for equipment. She even added me to a shared folder with all the business documents. I felt proud, included, like I was part of something. Then October came. "Mom, we have a slight problem," Jessica called on a Tuesday evening. Her voice had lost that bright confidence. The contractor ran into some unexpected issues. The building needs new plumbing way more extensive than the inspection showed. It's going to cost another $50,000. My stomach dropped. $50,000? Jessica, that's... I know it's a lot. But we're so close, Mom. We can't stop now. Brandon talked to the investor, and he's willing to chip in an extra $25 if we match it. Please, Mom, we're almost there. I transferred $25,000. In November, it was electrical issues, $30,000. In December, commercial kitchen equipment cost more than budgeted, $40,000. By January, I'd put in $320,000, and I hadn't seen the restaurant yet. Every time I suggested visiting Nashville to check on the progress, Jessica had an excuse. The contractor was behind schedule. They were doing demolition, and it wasn't safe. They wanted to surprise me with the grand opening. I was beginning to feel sick every time my phone rang. In February, my credit card statement showed charges I didn't recognize: a luxury hotel in Miami, a car lease payment, designer clothing stores. When I called the credit card company, they told me Jessica was an authorized user on my account, something I'd set up years ago when she was in college and never removed. $23,000, charged on my card without my knowledge. When I confronted her, Jessica cried, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I was going to tell you. Brandon's been under so much stress with the restaurant, and he needed to meet with some investors in Miami. It was a business trip. The clothes were for networking events. I was going to pay you back as soon as we got the next round of funding." I swear, I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly, but I didn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in Michael's study, looking at his photo on the desk. We'd met when I was 22, and he was the steadiest, most reliable man I'd ever known. He'd built his father's small hardware store into a successful business over 40 years. He'd never made a major financial decision without thinking it through from every angle. What would Michael do? I knew the answer. He'd investigate. The next morning, I drove to Nashville. I didn't tell Jessica I was coming. The address she'd given me for Bella Vista Restaurant was on Broadway, right in the heart of downtown. My heart was pounding as I found parking and walked to the location. The building was there, but it wasn't a restaurant. It was an empty storefront with a "For Lease" sign in the window. The same "For Lease" sign that had probably been there for months. I peered through the dusty glass. Nothing inside but bare walls and old tile flooring. No renovation. No kitchen equipment. No Bella Vista. I stood on that sidewalk, and I felt something inside me crack. $320,000. Gone. I called Jessica. It went to voicemail. I called Brandon. Voicemail. I called again, and again. On the 5th try, Jessica finally answered. "Mom, I'm in the middle of..." "Where's the restaurant, Jessica?" Silence. "I'm standing in front of 247 Broadway right now. There's no restaurant. There's nothing here. Where is my money?" I heard her breathing, fast and shallow. Then, "Mom, I can explain. It's not what you think." "What is it then?" "Explain it to me." The deal fell through. The investor pulled out. We had to pivot. "Stop lying to me." I'd never raised my voice to my daughter like that before. People on the sidewalk turned to stare at me. "I want my money back. All of it. Right now." "I don't have it." Her voice was small, childlike. "Mom, I don't have it." My knees felt weak. "What do you mean you don't have it? Where did it go?" "I made some bad investments. Brandon had some debts. We thought we could make it back, but how much is left?" "Mom." "How much, Jessica?" "Nothing. It's gone." I ended the call. I stood there on Broadway with tourists and musicians and honky-tonk bars all around me, and I felt completely alone. When I got home, I started going through every financial document I had: bank statements, credit card bills, the shared folder Jessica had created for the restaurant. That's when I found it the truth I'd been too trusting to see. There had never been an investor. The LLC was real, but Jessica and Brandon were the only members. Every invoice, every contractor receipt, every bit of documentation had been fabricated. The photos of renovation, downloaded from other restaurants' social media pages. I reverse image searched them and found the originals. My daughter had created an elaborate lie, and I had funded it with my husband's legacy. The credit card charges were just the beginning. I found out Jessica had also taken out a home equity line of credit on my house, $50,000, by forging my signature on the documents. She'd had access to my personal information her whole life. She knew my social security number, my mother's maiden name, every security question answer. In total, between the transfers, the credit cards, and the home equity loan, $395,000 was gone. I was 63 years old, and my daughter had stolen nearly $500,000 from me. I thought about calling the police, but what would that mean? Jessica would go to jail. Brandon would go to jail. They had a 6-year-old son, my grandson Tyler. What would happen to him? I spent 3 days alone in that house, crying, staring at the walls, trying to figure out what to do. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Michael's voice in my head. Take care of Jessica. She needs us. I had failed him, failed to protect what he'd worked 40 years to build. On the 4th day, someone knocked on my door. I almost didn't answer. I was still in my bathrobe at 2 p.m, my hair unwashed, looking like exactly what I was, a woman who'd been destroyed. But the knocking persisted. I opened the door to find a man in his late 60s, tall and lean, with silver hair and kind blue eyes. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. Mrs. Patterson? I'm Tom Hartley. I don't know if you remember me. I was Michael's best friend from high school. I was at the funeral. Michael's funeral. A blur of faces and casseroles and condolences I could barely hear through my grief. I'm sorry to intrude, Tom continued, but I need to talk to you about something important. May I come in? I should have been embarrassed about the state of my house, about how I looked, but I was too tired to care. I let him in. Tom sat in Michael's favorite chair, and I saw him glance at the photo on the side table, the two of them at a Braves game, probably 20 years ago. I miss him too, Tom said quietly. Every day. Why are you here, Mr. Hartley? Tom, please. He pulled out a folder from the bag he'd been carrying. Michael asked me to do something for him. About a month before he died, he made me promise not to tell you unless certain conditions were met. My heart started racing. What conditions? He asked me to keep an eye on Jessica, specifically on her finances. Michael loved his daughter, but he wasn't blind. He knew about the failed businesses, the credit card debt he'd quietly paid off over the years. He was worried about what might happen after he was gone. I felt tears burning my eyes. He knew? He suspected. So he hired me. I'm a retired detective, did private investigation work after I left the force. He set up a discreet monitoring system. I've been watching Jessica's financial activity for the past 2 years. Tom opened the folder. I know about the restaurant that doesn't exist, the forged signatures on the home equity loan, the credit cards, all of it. I've been documenting everything, waiting to see if you'd discover it yourself or if I needed to intervene. He pulled out a stack of documents. Bank records, credit card statements, screenshots of text messages between Jessica and Brandon discussing how to keep Mom from finding out. Photos of them at a casino in Biloxi, dozens of photos, time-stamped over the past 6 months. Your daughter has a gambling problem, Tom said gently. A severe one. Brandon's had one for years. That's where the money went. Not bad investments, casinos, online poker, sports betting. Michael suspected something like this might happen. I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the evidence spread across my coffee table. There's more, Tom said. He pulled out another document. 3 weeks before Michael died, he set up a trust. It's in your name, but it was supposed to remain confidential unless Jessica's behavior met certain criteria that would trigger my notification to you. He put $400,000 in it, money from his life insurance policy that nobody else knew about. He told me, if Jessica tries to take everything from her mother, make sure my wife knows I took care of her. Make sure she knows she'll be okay. I was crying now, full, wrenching sobs. Michael had known. He'd known our daughter might do this, and he'd protected me anyway, even dying. Even in those last horrible weeks of pain and hospice care, he'd been thinking ahead, making sure I wouldn't be left with nothing. There's enough evidence here to prosecute, Tom said. The forged signatures alone are multiple felonies, but that's your decision. Michael's only instruction was to make sure you had the truth and the means to rebuild. I looked at the documents. My daughter's betrayal, documented in black and white. My husband's love, proven in secret bank accounts and surveillance reports. What do? I whispered. That's entirely up to you. But if I may offer some advice, get a lawyer. A good one. Make Jessica face consequences, even if it's not criminal prosecution. People don't change unless they have to. Tom Hartley left that folder with me and stood to go. Michael was the best man I ever knew, he said at the door. He'd want you to be okay, Not just financially, actually okay. You deserve better than what Jessica's put you through. After he left, I sat with those documents for hours. The evidence of my daughter's lies next to the evidence of my husband's enduring love. I called a lawyer the next day. Her name was Patricia Morrison, and she specialized in elder financial abuse. Yes, that's what this was called, elder abuse, even when the abuser was your own child. Patricia looked at everything Tom had provided and shook her head. "This is one of the clearest cases I've seen," she said. "Forged documents, identity theft, embezzlement. Your daughter could face serious prison time." "I don't want her to go to prison," I said. "I want my grandson to have a mother, but I want my money back. I want her to understand what she did was wrong, and I want to make sure she can never do this to anyone else." Patricia nodded. "Then we negotiate. We present the evidence, we make it clear we could prosecute, and we demand restitution and treatment." The meeting happened 2 weeks later at Patricia's office. Jessica and Brandon came with their own lawyer, a nervous young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jessica couldn't look at me when she walked in. Patricia laid out the evidence methodically. The forged signatures, the fabricated restaurant, the gambling records Tom had compiled. By the end, Jessica was crying, and Brandon looked like he might be sick. "My client is prepared to prosecute on multiple felony counts," Patricia said. "Identity theft, forgery, embezzlement, wire fraud. We estimate Mrs. Patterson's financial losses at $395,000. However, Mrs. Patterson is willing to consider an alternative." Jessica looked up, hope flickering in her red eyes. "Full restitution, paid through a structured settlement over 10 years. Both defendants enter inpatient gambling addiction treatment, minimum 90 days, followed by ongoing therapy and Gamblers Anonymous attendance. Both defendants agree to have no access to Mrs. Patterson's financial information or accounts ever again, and Mrs. Patterson retains the right to revisit criminal prosecution if any terms are violated." Their lawyer looked at the evidence, looked at his clients, and said, "I strongly advise you to accept these terms." It took 3 days, but they agreed. The full story came out in family therapy sessions that followed sessions I attended only because the therapist said it would help Tyler, my grandson, understand what was happening. Jessica's gambling had started small, 5 years ago. Online slots, then sports betting, then casinos. Brandon had his own addiction, and instead of helping each other recover, they'd enabled each other deeper into debt. They'd maxed out their own credit cards, taken out loans, burned through their savings. When Brandon lost his job last year and Jessica's real estate license lapsed, they got desperate. "I told myself it was just borrowing from you," Jessica said in one session, not meeting my eyes, "that we'd pay you back when we won. I really believed we would win eventually. That's how addiction works. You always think the next bet will fix everything." "Did you ever think about your father?" I asked. "About what he worked his whole life to build?" Jessica broke down then. Really broke down. "Every day. I think about Dad every single day. He would be so ashamed of me. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." I wanted to forgive her in that moment, but I wasn't ready yet. The money from Michael's secret trust was exactly what Tom said it would be, $400,000, carefully invested, with a letter from my husband tucked inside the bank's documentation. I opened the letter alone, in my car, in the bank parking lot. "My dearest Claire, if you're reading this, then my worst fear has come true, and Jessica has let her demons win. I've known for years that she struggles with impulse control, with the need to chase the next thrill. I've bailed her out more times than you know, hoping each time would be the last. But I'm a realist. I know that when I'm gone, she might see you as an easy target. Someone too kind, too trusting, too loving to see what's coming. I've set aside this money where she can't find it, where you'll only discover it if you need it. Tom will know when that time comes. He's been my friend for 50 years, and I trust him with this final request. Please don't think I didn't love our daughter. I love her desperately, which is why I enabled her for so long. But I love you more, and I won't let my enabling become your destruction. Take this money and rebuild. Travel somewhere you've always wanted to go. Start that book club you talked about. Plant a garden. Live, Claire. Don't let Jessica's mistakes steal your future the way they've stolen your savings. And if you can find it in your heart to forgive her when you're ready, Not before that's entirely your choice. You owe her nothing more than you've already given. I made sure you'll be okay. All my love, always, Michael. I sat in that parking lot and cried until I had no tears left. The criminal case never went to trial because Jessica and Brandon honored their agreement. They went to treatment. They attended GA meetings. They got jobs and started making monthly payments toward what they owed me. It took me 9 months before I could have a conversation with Jessica that didn't end in anger or tears. It took another 6 months before I could hug her without feeling betrayed. But slowly, we're rebuilding. Not what we had before that's gone forever. Something different. Something more honest. Jessica understands now that she won't have access to my finances again, that I'll never co-sign a loan or invest in her ventures. That, my help, if I choose to give it, comes with boundaries and verification. Tyler still visits on weekends. I take him to the movies, teach him to garden, read him the same books I read to his mother when she was little. He doesn't know the full details of what happened, just that his parents made mistakes and are working to fix them. I'm 63 years old. I have $400,000 in savings, a paid-off house, and a pension. I'm financially secure again, thanks to my husband's foresight. But more than that, I have something I didn't have 18 months ago. Clarity. I know now that loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. That trust has to be earned back, even from family. That my husband's final gift wasn't just money, it was permission to protect myself, to set boundaries, to choose my own well-being. Last week, I planted new roses in the garden, a different variety than the ones Michael chose, but ones I picked for myself. They're called New Dawn, and they bloom in soft pink clusters. I think he'd approve. Sometimes, late at night, I still talk to Michael. I tell him about the book club I joined, the trip to Ireland I'm planning, the pottery class I signed up for. I tell him about Jessica's progress, about Tyler's straight A's, about the life I'm rebuilding. And I thank him for knowing me well enough to protect me, for loving me enough to prepare for the worst, for making sure that even when he was gone, I'd be okay. I'm not the same woman I was 18 months ago. That woman was trusting to the point of blindness, afraid to disappoint, willing to sacrifice everything for family. This woman knows better. This woman has boundaries. This woman understands that sometimes love means saying no, means demanding accountability, means protecting yourself even when it hurts. My daughter stole nearly $400,000 from me. She shattered my trust, exploited my grief, and gambled away her father's legacy. But she couldn't take everything, because my husband, even in death, made sure I'd have what I needed to start again. I carry his letter in my wallet now, folded small and worn soft from handling. When I doubt myself, when I wonder if I was too harsh with Jessica, when I feel guilty for setting boundaries, I pull it out and read it again. I made sure you'll be okay, and I am. I'm okay.